Hi everyone, Tiffany here and welcome to my quilting life. So today I have a little side video for you guys, but before I get to what I'm going to be doing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. So yeah, we've all seen panels. Well, they also make panels that are specific to projects that you would like to make. So every little girl and boys play with dolls. Well, there are some boys, but mostly girls play with dolls. And all they want for their dolls is a little doll blanket and doll pillow so their dolly can go to bed too. Well, they make these panels. Hope you can see that. And I have two of these. I'm just going to show you one. They're the same exact thing, same exact colors, blah, blah, blah. These panels, and they have directions on them. Some of you don't know how to put them together. So I'm going to show you an easy way to put these together and quilt them so that your little granddaughter or grandson has a little quilt to go with their doll. So stick with me and I'll be right back and show you how. So I'm going to start by cutting everything out. So some of these say to do certain things a certain way. I'm just going to do it the way I know how to do it. We're going to open this up, and I am going to just take my rotary cutter and ruler and cut this apart real quick so that I can work with this section first. This section is the quilt, then this little section is the pillow. So I'm going to stick this one aside. And you also need backing fabric for this one. This one's a little project. So this one is, I cut 21 inch by the width of fabric to get two little quilts. And they kind of seem crooked. I mean, I stretched it good at the iron, but it still kind of has a little bit of crookedness to it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut my best around it, leaving a little bit of the white. I'm just going to cut off the ends, which they look pretty good. So I'm just going to cut right here, cutting this off, leaving the same as I left everywhere else because we're going to be sewing. And I'm going to do both of these while I'm right here. So I'm going to cut this one apart, get this one ready, and then we'll do the other one as well. But again, I was able to cut the width of fabric, 21 inches of fabric for two of these projects. I chose the backing. So I'm going to cut this one apart now. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this side off first. Just a little bit away from it, just getting rid of the selvage. I'm going to leave the sides where you can see some of the white, because again, it's kind of crooked and funky, but we are going to make this work. So I'm going to turn it around, I'm going to cut this side out, and I'm going to set the pillow part aside for now. We'll work on those in a second. So now that I got this piece, this is the easiest thing you will ever make. I'm going to kind of just stretch it to where it's kind of straight. I know you shouldn't do this, but it's not laying very straight, and I want it to lay straight. So I'm going to stretch it a little, and I'm going to take it over to the iron and press it real quick in this way and be right back. Okay, so I got them as straight as I could. So now we have two. I'm making two separate little doll quilt, pillow and quilts. So for now we're just going to work with one. So I'm going to set that aside. And I'm also going to set this aside. So what I have done is I cut, like I said, a 21 inch, and you can measure your little doll quilts fabric. So like this one is 21. I just cut 21 inches so I can have wiggle room, and by the width of fabric, 21 inches off of it, and you might want to measure yours first, so you measure the length of your little panel after you cut it out. So this one's mine, and here's my backing fabric for it. Isn't it just super adorable? I think it goes well with the colors in here. I don't know if it came together, if it was part of a thing, because I don't really see some of these in here, but to me it looks like it goes together. So that's what we're going to work with. And as well as cutting this, I also have about 20, let's see what I cut this at. Yeah, 20 by, let's see, where are we at? 10, 20, 35-ish piece of batting. And this is just scrap batting. And it's been Franken pieced together, as you can see. But that's going to be on the inside, so you won't even know. So now what I'm going to do is take my Franken pieced batting with it right sides up. You can tell some battings have a smooth side. You can see in the camera this is really smooth. I can run my hand across it. And this side is fluffy rough, so you can see my fingernails catch on it. So that's how you know. So I'm going to put this right sides up. Then I'm going to take my backing. I'm going to lay it on here like so, right side up. I'm going to smooth it out really, really, really good. Smoothing it out as flat as I could possibly get it. And then I'm going to take the little cute quilt top, and I'm going to put that right sides down, just right here in the center. And I'm going to flatten it out nice and smooth. Now, there's choices here. You can pin this, or you don't have to. I'm just going to throw a couple pins in here to hold this down all the way through the batting and keep it nice and flat. So I'm just going to put it nice and flat. And use my hand to pick it up, nice and flat, keeping it flat the whole time. So I'm just going to add a couple pins around the edge, not too close to the edge because we're going to be sewing there. So again, I'm just keeping everything nice and flat. Come right here, put a pin in. Again, I'm flattening it as I put my pins in so that everything stays flat and flush. Put a pin right here, and one more down here at the bottom. I'm using really big pins. You can use safety pins if you want, but it's not really a big deal with this kind of project. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way around this whole entire thing, leaving an opening, which I'm going to leave my opening down here at the bottom so that we can pull it and flip it. But for now, we're going to sew all the way around, and I'm going to use the edge of this blue right here. You can see through the fabric. I'm going to use the edge of this blue line as my 1/4 inch line. And I'm going to sew all the way around, again, leaving an opening right here. Okay, so my foot on here is on. I'm going to raise my thing just a little bit, and I'm going to use my sewing foot as the guide all the way around this. So I'm going to line the outside of my foot up, which is a 1/4 inch away from the outside, or the furthest side of this blue line. When I say blue line, I said this blue line right here on this edge. That's why I left just a little bit, because it'll be more than a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going around the edge of this line, a 1/4 inch away, not the second line, but this first edge. Now I'm just going to sew. Actually, I'm going to start right here at the bottom where I want my opening. And I'm going to sew right here at this bottom, and I'm going to back stitch just a little. And now I'm going to sew all the way around. I'm going to come right here to this corner, about a 1/4 inch pivot. Turn this whole entire project, pivot, and follow this all the way up. Keeping everything nice and flat. Equal and flush. And right here, leave the needle down, pivot again, put that needle back down, or the presser foot back down, and come again down this side. This is the stitch and flip method. So much easier, and you can still quilt. You can still quilt the project. So I'm going to come right here, leave that needle down, pivot, come to this side, and I'm keeping everything nice and flat without trying to poke myself with these pins. And I'm going to be doing this 2 times because I have another project to do, but I'm just doing one for now. And I'm just holding it nice and flat as I go. Come to this corner right here, pivot 1/4 inch away from my edge. And then this is the side I want to leave a hand opening over here. So I'm going to come down just a little, about right here. I'm going to back stitch so it doesn't come apart, and then we are going to take the pins out and flip it. Okay, so we're here at the project. We're going to pull all these pins out so I don't poke myself anymore, because they are not needed. And what I'm going to do, see, there's still an opening to get my hand in there, but for now, before I even try to take and move anything and adjust anything, I'm going to cut away the outside excess. So we're going to take the rotary cutter and the ruler. Make sure you have a really long ruler for this project, and if you don't, you're following the edge anyway. I'm just going to again follow that white little edge, and it's about a 1/4 inch away from my sewn edge. I'm going to cut myself a nice straight line right here. And that's my trim off. I'm just going to stick it aside for now because I can use the scrappings for the pillow part, which we will show you as soon as I get to that part. Now I'm going to come up here. I'm going to trim this side away. I'm going to turn it again. I'm going to trim this side away. Again, I'm just lining up the ruler with not only my seam on a line, but with the edge of the fabric. And one more side. And when I say edge of the fabric, I mean the white that we left on the little doll quilt thing. Okay, so now that that's all trimmed away, what we're also going to do is take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to clip away this corner right here, but I'm not going to touch my stitching line. I'm coming right before it. So let me show you again. Here's my stitch line. I'm hoping that you can see that. I'm coming right before it, just like that. So there's still a little bit you can see. That way I didn't cut off my corner, but we want to be able to tuck these corners nicely. So I'm going to do this to all 4 corners. Take, and I'm going to clip it. If I can hold it nicely, you can use your rotary cutter if you want. Clip that away, and one more corner. Clip that away. Now that those corners are clipped away, discard the waste, find your opening, stick your hand in between the fabric, not the batting, but the fabric part. Stick your hand in there, come up to this top corner, and this top corner, holding it with a finger, and then holding this top corner with a finger, pushing it in, and I'm going to pull it through this hole, just like so. So we're pulling it through the hole, very nicely, not to rip anything. So now I put the project the right way with the batting in the middle. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to go in and push these corners out. And now if you're not good with your finger or you have fat fingers, you can also take a pair of scissors in there and just nicely push that corner out like so to where it's nice and square. See? And then you come up to this top one. I use my fingers first to get it nice and so. This one came out really good, so I don't even have to use the scissors on that one. And there's also tons of poking tools that you can use, but since I cut off that corner, it sits really nice in there. Ooh, that one came out nice too. Look at that. So it's really nice, nice and flat. And then let's get this bottom one right here. And this is also good for those of you who have really small machines. If you want to do your projects this way, this actually works really well, and you can still quilt it. If you're very careful, like, you can use a walking foot and quilt it. Alright, so now we have all the 4 corners nice and pushed out like this. Everything's nice and flat. Now the next part you can or you don't have to do, because this is really thick batting that I'm using. The next part is sewing this hole closed. But before I sew it closed, what I'm going to do is take this bottom piece and flip it in like that. I'm going to pull it really tight, and I'm going to take it over to the iron, and I'm going to press not only this opening right here folded in. So I took my batting, it's folded in. The bottom I'm folding over it, and then the top will fold its natural 1/4 inch. I'm going to take the iron to it and press it down, but I'm going to go around the whole entire outside with the iron. Now you don't have to do this step, but I do it just so that it stays down. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I just pressed all the way around this whole thing so that it lays nice and flush. I kind of pulled out just a little because I want it as flat as can be all the way around, and then I pressed with the iron this back so that it stays closed really nicely, and again went all the way around. So now I'm going to quilt it. So what I'm going to do is switch out my machine to a cream thread, which I could have just used the whole entire time. See, this is kind of crooked, but as long as it's laying flat, it should work just fine. This is a pretty thick little project here, so we're going to switch out the thread, and I will show you how to seal up this opening. There's the opening. I will show you how to seal up this opening and quilt this little thing. Okay guys, so I went ahead and switched out to like a tan cream so that it matches all this and the back. And we are going to start with sealing up this opening, as well as I'm going to take and sew 1/8 of an inch with the sealing the opening. I'm going to sew all the way around this whole entire thing with like 1/8 of an inch stitch. So I'm just going to stick it under the foot. I'm going to come to the beginning of the opening, like right before it. And I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm going to hold this opening at this end a little bit tight so that it stays sealed and everything stays where it's supposed to. And I'm going to just take a back stitch and hold it nice and tight, and I'm going to come all the way down to the other side of the opening. So that way I'm sealing it up really nicely, and I'm going to bypass the end and come all the way around this whole entire quilt. I'm going to come right here to this end, right at the corner. One more stitch. We're going to pivot, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch, or 1/8 of an inch all the way down this side too, going all the way around the whole entire quilt, just because it looks cute. I'm just holding the next end with my fingers, pulling just a little tight, not too much, just to keep it nice and flat and flush. And you don't have to sew as fast as I do either. You can sew nice and slow. One more stitch. Turn the whole project. Put that pedal back down, or the foot back down, and go down this side now. Holding it nice and tight. I'm just using this hand to pull just a little bit. About 1/8 of an inch, and I'll show you in a second what we did. Right here, come to this, pivot again. Come all the way down, and I'm going to cut this thread right here where I started, so that way I'm not running it over, as well as the one from the bottom. That way I'm not running it over. Pull it and snip it. I'm just going to come right to that. A couple more stitches, 1, 2 right there. Come across this part right to where we started. I'm going to cross it just by a couple stitches and back stitch and be done. And since I cut my threads, I need to get rid of these 2 little pieces at the bottom. Alright, so now the opening is now shut. There's some thread that came out from the inside, and I'll just trim that off. That's because that's where I started from my back stitch. I didn't get rid of it in the beginning. So now the opening is sealed, but what's cool is that seam goes all the way around right here, as you can see, 1/8 of an inch all the way around. You can barely tell. It's a cream thread. Let me come as close as I can. So there's a nice stitch, pivot it at the corner. Let's let that focus. It goes all the way around. Okay, so it went all the way around. So now you can leave it like this. It's nice, and it's sealed, or you can quilt it. So I'm going to quilt it, and I'm not going to use a walking foot, but I recommend that you do. I just don't feel like changing out a bazillion times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my foot up that I have on here now with this red line on here, and I'm going to stitch on the inside of that red line all the way around. So I'm going to start up here. I'm going to put my needle down, and I'll bring the camera close so that you can see. So I'm going to put this right here, and I'm going to bring my needle right down in that corner. I'm going to drop my presser foot. Okay, so my needle is down, and I'm just going to take one stitch forward, one stitch back, and now I'm going to sew along the inside of this red line all the way around. So let me put the camera, I guess right here. Go right here because I can't put it anywhere else, unfortunately. There, I'm going to leave it right here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to sew all the way around on the inside of that red line. And you can sew slow or quick, it don't matter, but use a walking foot if you're going to do this. I'm just using this because I don't want to switch out while making a video. I already have enough interruptions today. And I'm just holding it with my hands because this is a pretty thick batting in here too. I'm going to come right here, one more stitch, there we go, and I'll pivot, and I'm going to leave it nice and flat and follow that line again. Holding the whole project, and if you use a walking foot, it'll take the bottom and the top in at the same exact time. Following the inside of that red line. Right there. Pivot. Again, holding the whole thing nice and flat. Stitch right there, turn the whole thing again, and we're going to come to the beginning, so I'm just going to get rid of this thread on the top, turn it around and get rid of it on the bottom so that I don't run it over. It's just a little dinky piece. Turn the whole thing, and again, flatten everything out, follow that line. And right here, I'm going to hold it nice and tight because I'm not using a walking foot so that I don't get a fold in that corner. Now I'm going to back stitch, one back, one forward, one back, one forward, and break the thread. And I'll come down here to the bottom and get rid of those two little pieces of thread from doing that. Now that I have done that, I'm going to come and go in between this on all these and up and down. So it's just going to be quick, and I'll move it around so that I'm not going the same direction each time. So I'll come to this one, put my needle down right at that edge, take one forward, one back on this one, and come down between these two, holding it nice and flush. So that I don't get a fold right here. This is what the walking foot is good for. I didn't want that fold, but it's going to happen anyway. One stitch forward, one stitch back, stop it. Now I'm going to turn it around and go from this way because I want that fold to, it's just a little tiny fold. I want it to be spread out. So needle down, put it down, one forward, one back. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to hold it nice and flush, but still going to get that little pucker because I'm not using the walking foot. All right. One forward, one back. Break thread. Turn the whole thing around again, and I'll cut all those threads loose as soon as I am finished. Put the needle down right here. One forward, one back. Hold the other end. Nice and flat. So all the way down. Try to prevent that little pucker. Oops. Come to this one. The other way. Put the needle down right there. One forward, one back. Come to this. Hold this end so that I prevent the pucker from being too bad. One forward, one back. Break thread, turn it around one more time, and do this side. Again, I'm just going to hold the other end, holding it flat as I go. Come to the end. Now I'm going to go up and down, and like I said, I'm going to clip all the threads when I am finished. So I'm going to go on up and down now. One forward, one back. Go all the way down. So it's like cross hatching, just up and down. It'd be like stitching in the ditch, but there is no ditch. It's just little built-in blocks that come with this little project. You turn it around, go the opposite way.
Are you live?
Nope. Okay, now putting my needle down. Right there, one forward, one back, same thing, whole procedure, all the way. Turn it around. So I'm kind of going back and forth like this purposely so that I equal out the stretching because I'm not using a walking foot. And one more. Put the needle down. Forward, back. And come to this end and break it. Now let's trim away all those threads and I'll show you what it looks like. So now what I'm going to do, since I did it this way, is trim away all these little threads, all the way, anywhere that I find one, trim it all the way, and there's a couple puckers, they're small, not really that bad. Trim away all these little threads, all the way around, anywhere that they are on the top, and then flip it over and pull away all my thread breakage threads, because I just used the cutter on the machine, which always leaves this little tie every time. So I just trim those away. They're really small, they're hard to grab, but see, they're just little tiny threads. I just trim them away real quick. All the way around. Every other one, because I was rotating the back and forth thing. And shake it off. And here we have a cute little baby's baby quilt. It's for the dolls, so it's a little doll quilt. So it's not perfect by no means, never is, but it will last. Every single, see now they're little puffed squares because I stitched between all of them, so you can see the stitching. I used a pretty big stitch length. Let's see if I can get that to focus. There we go. All the way around. And see, there's just tiny little puckers. Tiny, literally, just tiny little puckers from not using the walking foot. That's why I recommend using it, but I did not. So here is the tiny little baby quilt. And here's the back of it. So it is for dolls. It's the Dolly quilt. I will insert some pictures and we'll get to the little pillow. So now I'm on to the pillow. The pillow has two pieces. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is cut away with some scissors right here, all the way. Cut away this end because I don't need it. And this has directions. It tells you what to do. Really don't need this much on here, and I'm going to be cutting it away anyway. It's just going to be a little dinky pillow. I could have just used my rotary cutter for this, but I'm not. I'm going to split these apart like this. All this excess off because I don't need it. And we're going to make this little pillow, and I'm just going to keep the thread I have on. What we're going to do is we're going to stick these two pieces right sides together. We're going to make sure that it's as equal as it can get. We're going to line these up, making sure that it's all lined up all the way around, like so. We don't need this. And I'm going to save these alphabets on here, by the way, just as a side note, because I can use those for something else. But for now, I'm just going to throw it all out of the way. Make sure all these corners are nice and lined up. And they are. That's good. That's good. Good and good. And we're going to take this to the sewing machine, just like this. Now I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. From the inside of this white, outside of this, inner from the line. So at the edge of the pillow, a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. Oops, why did I start there? Let's start right here at the bottom where we're going to be leaving a small little opening. I totally forgot that. So leave a little opening. Come around. Stop right here. Pivot. Come down this side. Come right here. Pivot. Leaving that needle down this side. Stop right here, pivot. And I'm barely going to sew the other way because I have to leave a big enough opening to put some pillow fluff in here. So I left an opening right here to stuff it with pillow fluff. And what I'm going to do is we're going to move over back to the sewing or the cutting area. And the same thing I did with the quilt. I'm just going to cut away right here, all the way around. And I have a lot of excess on here, which I'm going to cut that away real quick with the ruler and rotary cutter. just going to cut a little bit more than 1/4 inch away from the edge, just so that it's nice and equal inside the pillow, but I don't want anything falling apart, so I'm just going to make sure that it's nicely cut. And for this part of the project, you need some pillow stuff, just letting you know. You need to be able to stuff your pillow with something, so you can use pillow fluff, which they sell lots of, or you can use leftover batting and shred it up, because it comes apart really easily to stuff this. This is just for little kids, for their little dollies. So, all right, so now that I have all my four corners off and I left my opening, I stick my hand in there, turn this little guy all the way around, stick my finger in there and push this all out in the corners. Get this pushed out all the way around. And there's a baby in here. We're going to push it all the way around just like this, pushing those corners out. It doesn't really matter. And now we're going to stuff it. I'm not going to put much in it. I'm just going to put a little because it doesn't need to be super fluffy. It's just for the dolls. So I'm just using a very little bit. I'm making a little pillow set.
That's cute.
It's got a little mini quilt that goes with it. It's for stuffed animals, or for dolls. We're just going to stuff it just a little bit more, and then I'll show you how to close the seam. I'm just going to stuff it. Like I said, it doesn't need to be too full for the dollies. So you just need craft polyfill or whatever you want to use. This is just for little stuffed animals. Stuff this just a little bit more. One more little amount because I don't want it too full. Okay, and now that it's fully stuffed, I'm going to shove everything down in it for now for a second. And we're going to pull this hole closed right here. It's such a big opening. I'm going to pull this closed, folding it down in, and I'm going to use my fingers across that, like this. Lay it down here. Use my fingers across it, and use my fingers to kind of fold that seam down so that it stays. Alright, let's take it to the sewing machine. We're going to push down on that pillow, keeping that seam folded, and we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch to seal it. So I'm going to start right beyond the pillow opening. I'm going to hold really tight on this far end, pulling it down towards me. Go. Grab it close, and we're going to pull it towards, seal that seam up, and I'm going to go all the way to the other end because I started on one end. Give it a nice clean look, and our little pillow is now sealed. We'll trim away the threads on front and back. Make sure it's nice and closed and you can't even tell. And then we're going to fluff that little pillow up. So we'll just fluff it up a little. Just nicely fluff it. Move that out of the way. And I'll be back with some still photos of both of these together. Okay guys, so I appreciate you coming and joining me. Oh, my hair is just blowing everywhere. And joining me for making this little baby panel, which I'll hold this up again. Here's the little quilt panel and its little pillowcase part. I really appreciate you guys hanging out while I make this, and I'll show you the finished project. So here's the little quilt for the baby dolls, and here's the little pillow that goes with it. And I didn't stuff it too big because baby dolls are so small they don't need really big stuffed pillows. And you can see at the bottom it's nice and closed, and I took the seam all the way across to close it properly. I think it looks cleaner when you go across the whole bottom of the pillow instead of just the opening area, you know? So that's just personal preference, just like the sewing all the way around the quilt top like this. personal preference. Instead of it just being on the bottom, I sew all the way around. So I appreciate you joining me while I make this little dinky project. And now I got to make another one. See you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel right down there. Like my videos and share them. Bye.